So the Wolfpack is hot on the recruiting trail, and yet the hottest bat in Raleigh is leaving. We're going to talk all that and more on today's episode of Locked On Wolfpack.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Folks, we have a ton to get to today in terms of all things on the recruiting trail, as well as transfer portal news out of baseball. But before we do, I've got to let you know that this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Now, Grace, we had the huge weekend in terms of official visit. We saw some commitments. We saw some receivers saying, I may not be ready to commit yet, but I see the vision. Kind of talk to us about what went down this weekend and what the feel is coming out of this weekend that saw a ton of top talent in the state coming on to NC State's campus this weekend.
Yeah, like we mentioned on Friday, this was a enormous weekend for NC State football recruiting. A couple of high-level receivers, all from the state of North Carolina. Very important to start to build that fence like we've been talking about, keeping that high-level talent here at home. Of course, didn't get any commitments from the three that we're referring to in Taylor, Paylor, and Anderson, but there were some encouraging things I saw from all three of them, basically saying, they were impressed with the visit. They could see the vision there, with the layout of an MJ Morris and a Cedric Bailey coming down the line. They enjoyed their time there. Of course, they still have a few more visits to go through, but I think, I guess it went about as good as we could have hoped outside of just getting commitments from those guys. We did get that big commitment from the running back and from nearby Rollsville, North Carolina, Isaiah Jones. So important to get these local guys here to state to build that, camaraderie within the local towns here. But yeah, we're, I'm not to sugarcoat it, but we're after the big fish here. We are after the big time wide receiving talent that needs to be coming here to Raleigh. So, a guy like a Jonathan Paylor, who we've been on for quite some time now, I saw that I guess we've drawn even with South Carolina for his number one spot. I'm a little uneasy because he's going to South Carolina this weekend for his official visit, but you certainly hope that all the bells and whistles and all the stops were pulled out, because we absolutely have to have three guys like this come to state.
And when I look at Paylor, and I want to talk about something in particular that he said here, I'm soaking it all in and realizing, like, okay, I'm really important to NC State. So let's see what I can do about it. That, to me, talks a lot about what's going on here in terms of a good recruiter makes you, they sell you the vision of the program and where you fit into it, right? That's what a good recruiter does. A great recruiter sells you on the fact that the vision may not even be possible without you. That you are such an essential piece to the vision, that you being here is the difference. We're on the precipice of greatness. You're the difference between, goodness and greatness. And I also want to talk about Ethan McDowell here of the Wolfpacker and On 3 Sports. Shout out to Ethan. He's a friend of the pod. He said NC State is putting more resources than ever into recruiting right now, and that shows up during official visits. Grayson, if I do recall, not too long ago, there was an episode where we got into how much teams were spending.
Oh, yeah.
On recruiting, And I do believe, if I do recall so correctly, now maybe I'm crazy, but there was an ebony and ivory duo, okay? I remember there was some handsome bald fellow and his porcelain partner in crime who came up with a spectacular idea for NC State to simply spend more money. And it seems as if the yields are positive so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think we even mentioned this on last Friday's show as well. These three guys are about as big of names as we can look at for the 2024 class. All expenses need to be had in order to get these three here. And, like you just mentioned, there have been a couple comments from these three guys, in saying that they do see the vision and they feel wanted by NC State. They felt important here this past weekend. I sure hope so, because they are important. We have to have them here. Guys like these three, Taylor, Paler, and Anderson, in the event that we land, we'll say two of them, being optimistic, all three would be an absolute home run.
Yeah.
Landing two of them, the level of talent that these three guys possess, landing any two of those, that is where you start to take that next step. Like we mentioned on Friday, you elevate that floor up to a 9-win floor and possibly higher than that, the further you go. But yeah, to do that, you got to spend that money. You have to, you can't be afraid to let it fly. Essentially, you gotta break some bands and you gotta make some things happen, because if you allow these SEC schools to stay in the mix long enough, yeah, they're gonna win a bidding war. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. So you certainly hope that the homegrown feel in you are so important that we don't know if this class will turn out as well as we want if we can't have you. That level of importance can't be understated.
Absolutely. And I wanna look at this from the standpoint of the vital importance in spending money here. I'm not telling the team to throw $1 million at every recruit that comes through the campus.
No, I mean, that's not
But
feasible, but yeah.
but what I am saying is this: there is no greater return on investment. You talk about, oh man, Thunder does such a great job with player development. Doran does such a great job with player development. If I can build 2 and 3 stars into NFL players, that's great. Imagine what you could do with 5 stars. It is akin to, everybody loves talking about the rose that grew from concrete. Hey, that rose grew in spite of its conditions, not because of its conditions. Imagine what that rose could have been if you would have put it in fertile soil. That rose is NC State. The fertile soil is great players. You give NC State football these great players with what we already have in terms of player development. The sky is the limit. And I'll tell you what, there is legitimately, and I'm not joking when I say this. I always talk about the amount of teams where winning 8 games isn't enough and all that, and how limited that tier is. Grayson, you said that the floor could be raised to a 9-win season. There are 5 teams in the nation that's their floor. 5 teams. You've got Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, and I feel like I'm missing somebody.
You say Clemson already?
Oh, Clemson. Yes. Those are the teams that, like, if they win 9 games, people are looking around like, what happened?
Yeah, if they win 9 games, they're looking around like, who's got to be fired? That's a horrible season for them.
That's it. Everybody else, USC, we've seen it for years. 9 wins or less, they were all right with it. We've seen it. Miami, we've seen it. Texas, we've seen it. They say they're back every time they beat the Southeastern Directional School for the Differently Abled. Every year, first game of the year. They play Last Chance U, win by 60, and they're back. We've seen it. We've seen it. Texas A&M and Jimbo, the best team money can buy, everybody says. We've seen it. They'll be okay with that. The air that you're talking about, Grayson, I think it's achievable by NC State. But I think, like you said, you don't get there with a roster that is filled with 2 and 3 stars.
Right.
With all due respect to those guys. You know what I mean? Because I was a 3-star myself. That doesn't mean that you're an inferior player or that you can't get the job done. That doesn't mean that. It just means the people who follow these guys around and give them those rankings is more art than science. So there is no way to perfectly predict who's going to do what. But the people who follow them around, the Steve Whitfongs, the Alan Trues, the Corey Smiths of the world, they get paid a big kid salary, maybe not the biggest of kids' salary, but a big kid's salary to do what they do for a reason. They get paid to project what these players are going to do for a reason, and they're right a lot more often than not. So if you can get in really good players, players who have a just mountains of potential with this player development, you're cooking with grease. You're cooking with
Absolutely.
grease at
And I
that
mean,
point.
with these three guys, some of the biggest selling points you can give them are quality quarterbacks that are going to be able to get them the ball. You
Absolutely.
got, the facilities, the proven ability of the coaching staff to develop you and get you to the NFL. And then of course you have a ravaged fan base that will be there rain, shine, hurricane, sold out every game. If you're in the red and white, we absolutely love you. You will always have our support. You know,
And,
these times are changing and it's gotten even harder to land these 4 and 5-star guys because they want all the things and it's not, you can't really lay back on, well, we're building something here. You kind of already have to have a baseline, but getting these guys and showing them how important they can be to this new baseline, you're going to get the playing time. You're going to get everything you could possibly want right here. This is where you need to be.
and on top of all that, we have the same way we talked about the basketball team having the thing that's most valuable in this world, shots. We've got receptions available.
Oh, we do.
We don't have a 1,000-yard receiver on this team. We don't have a 10, 15 touchdown guy on this team that hey, that's the number one guy. We're looking for him whenever we're in trouble. That's the guy. We don't have one. And by the time that these guys come in, we would hope so. We would hope that Timmons steps into those shoes. Anthony Smith steps into those shoes. Keon Lassane steps into those shoes. Porter Rook steps into those shoes. Julian Gray steps into those shoes. We would hope somebody steps into those shoes. But as it stands right now, there is nobody to say, hey, brother, you got to wait behind him. He's different. He ain't like the rest of us. So if you are that guy that's different and not like the rest of us, you'll get your shot right away. You'll have your chance to do your thing at a high clip right away. There is no doubt about it. If you bet on yourself and you believe in yourself, there's a great opportunity there for you. And speaking of betting, let me talk to you all about FanDuel. Baseball season is in full swing. You see what I did there? Baseball season in full swing. Anyway, it gets no better than going to get in on the betting action at FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers get a no sweat first bet of up to $1,000. That's up to $1,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. Come on now. Who doesn't love a win-win? You either win your first bet or you get some bonus bets back. I'm just saying. I've never heard of Vegas giving you no offers like that. So with that being said, just make sure you go to fanduel.com/locked-on to join today. It doesn't matter who your team is or what you're betting, whether you believe that Brendan Armstrong is going to throw for 4,000 yards or whether you believe that MJ Moore is going to be a Heisman contender. Doesn't matter. You can bet it all on FanDuel. Don't miss your chance to snag a no-sweat first bet of up to $1,000 when you join FanDuel today. Just go to fanduel.com/locked-on to sign up. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is a official partner of FanDuel once again, folks. So we just talked about Major League Baseball, and now we've got to bring it on down a little bit because we talked about the exciting news and all this heat coming into Raleigh. Well, congratulations. Turns out we need a little heat check because the hottest bat in Raleigh, the highest batting average of all returners, in Mr. Cannon Peebles, who was a true freshman last year. He was a true freshman, right?
True freshman.
Yeah, we got true freshman Cannon Peebles. Catcher, DH. He is hitting the portal. And this is the second year that we lose one of our best hitters. And, it happened again. Grayson, give me your initial thoughts here.
Well, I'll tell you what, it doesn't suck any less. I think the circumstances are a bit different for Cannon than they were from number 47, but it doesn't hurt any less. A freshman to come in and to have the type of season that Cannon did, in that he was a consistent source of offense, and where a lot of points in the season where this team sort of struggled to continue to keep their head above water. Cannon seemed to always be there outside of a small window of some time he missed. But yeah, for a freshman to come in, lead us an average, second on the team in home runs, tied for first with RBIs, first in slugging percentage, it's unprecedented. And we've really only seen it just a year prior with that one guy I mentioned before. I hate saying his name. But yeah, it's tough to go through this for the second year in a row. But this is the new reality of college sports. You open Pandora's box with NIL and the transfer portal. This is the sort of thing you're going to get. Now, I do want to make note. I've seen a lot of tweets kind of questioning the motive here. I even saw some tweets from Cannon's dad on Twitter kind of illuminating some things. I do believe that this move is purely for playing time, based on what his dad was saying is, they love their time here at NC State. This is not distaste for Elliott Avent. It's not distaste for the program, the fan base, the NIL situation they had. It's simply, it whittles down to the fact that, one, Cannon is a catcher by default and did not see a lot of time behind the plate here. This is because Jacob Cozart is the better defensive catcher. Fact of the matter. Two, Jacob Cozart's the better catcher, and he's going to be here again next season. What does this mean for Cannon Peebles? Is he going to be DH again? Probably. Is he going to have to find another position in the field? Possibly. So what do Peebles do? They look at the options and they see the transfer portal as their best option. Going into his sophomore year, he's going to start to need that, cumulative draft tape for once he gets to his draft year as a junior. And so, yeah, does it hurt for NC State fans? Yeah, it absolutely does. But from a baseball player mindset here, it makes sense for Cannon. He needs the reps he needs to get in order to, develop his catching game so he can get to the pros. So, yeah, it's a very tough pill to swallow. We hate to have to go through this again here in Raleigh. Possibly a silver lining here is that we might have some catching help on the way in Alex Sosa, incoming freshman. He's been getting a little bit of draft buzz, so we're hoping that we can keep him coming to campus now. Of course, with Cannon leaving, that might strengthen that possibility, but this is the new reality of college sports. It's a revolving door, love it or hate it. This is where we're at now. So, much like needing wide receivers, much like needing some shot takers in basketball, we got a lot of at-bats we're going to have to fill for the baseball team as well. So with Cannon leaving, you're going to have to replace your starting DH. Gino's getting drafted, your starting third baseman. Peyton Green transferred, your starting shortstop. A couple of outfielders you're going to have to replace. We got a lot of swings that we're going to need some people to be taken here, whether it's the portal or just developing these incoming freshmen. We got some real estate for sale. So, Cannon, we wish the best of luck to you. But, yeah, it's another tough pill to swallow here in Raleigh for another lackluster year of NC State baseball.
But and this is why I can understand people calling the coaching the question. And I don't want to be this guy, but we talked about this off air, and I got to talk about it here as well. If hey, this is a guy who's very interested in playing catcher in a full-time capacity, why were the duties not split? Why did you not? And I'm not saying, hey, having Cozart back there is the same as having Peoples back there. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is, you alluded to earlier that that Cozart had taken about 95% of the innings back there. Why? Why? You've got this super freshman that you can say, hey, you know what? He's going to make some mistakes. Let's start him in the midweeks. Let's start him, and not just start him in the midweeks, start him in the midweeks against teams that we should clobber.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a fair question because I also saw this playing out differently. With the amount of buzz surrounding Cannon preseason, I did expect to see him a bit more often behind the plate than we did. Didn't turn out that way. And so this is kind of the end result we're left with here. Do I think Cannon could have played a lot more behind the plate? Yeah, probably. But I think the way the staff kind of digested the situation is that, with Cozart being our best defensive option behind the plate, they can utilize that designated hitter spot to keep both of them in the lineup. And especially too, earlier in the season when they were both kind of getting those trade-off looks, they were both tearing the cover off the ball. And so they reached a point where it's like, well, we have to have both of them in the lineup. But I think we just got complacent there. And that's probably where I guess we missed the mark in that, you got Kozart behind the plate. He's hitting well. Peebles in the DH spot. He's hitting well. He's getting National Player of the Week, hitting well. And I think the situation was just kind of left right there. They said, all right, we got them both in the lineup. Let's roll from here. And, the season went on. Cannon was not seeing time behind the plate. We don't know exactly when this idea started formulating that he'd potentially transfer, but that's probably where the mark was missed, you could say.
We lost the tank and the cannon back to back. Any more names related to any type of armaments, keep their tails away from NC State baseball.
Incoming catcher is Alex Sosa. I'm not sure that's any kind of machinery or weaponry.
We're all right. We're all right.
Maybe he'll stick around for a couple of years.
Now, don't y'all give Alex no cute nicknames. Don't y'all give Alex no cute nicknames related to any type of armament, because we saw, like I said, we lost the tank and the cannon back to back to back. My heart can't take this no more. Okay? My heart can't take this no more. Don't give them no cute nicknames related to anything to do with weaponry. Please don't do it, because again, you're going to send my blood pressure through the roof. You're going to have me stroking out early. I already went bald early. NC State sports to do this thing. It made me go bald early. Okay? I'm not going to blame my genetics for the early onset balding. I'm going to say it was NC State sports. But anyway, that's what's going on here. We'll be right back to close this thing out after a quick word from our sponsors. So, Grayson, to wrap this thing up, I'm going to give you the last word here, but I think it's clear. Spend money in recruiting. And as they say, if you spend it, they will come.
In other words, scared money don't make no money.
Hey now.
Am I making sense to somebody?
Hey, if it make dollars, it makes sense. I'll tell you that much.
I know that's right. And
the return on investment on a good recruit, I will not reveal this coach's name, but it was an excellent coach, great all-timer of a coach. And he said, my wife likes the finer things, but every dime I give her, she turns into $1. So the return on investment is always there. I'm telling you right now, it's the same thing with getting really good recruits. The return on investment will always be there. And NC State baseball losing their best hitter again in terms of returner. I truly hope that this does not become a pattern. But with that being said, I'm going to toss it over to you, Grayson, for last words, and then we're going to get on out of here.
Yeah, as much as it stings there to lose your second, or I guess two of your best hitters in back-to-back years here, we do have help on the way. We're going to get a pretty healthy look at the portal here, as we do have so many at-bats, I guess literally for sale. But don't hang your head too much on that. It's just, another thing to kind of grasp here, we're not the only school going through this. It's everywhere. It's not just us. Don't play the woe is me. Farewell to Cannon. We wish him the best, respectfully, tongue-in-cheek. Hope we don't have to play you. But I think when it's all said and done, Alex Sosa is a stud. He's on the way. Got some pitching arms on the way. Going to get some transfer portal help. I think we'll be right back in the mix in 24.
Well, that's all we can hope for. Thank y'all so very much for coming out, Wolfpack Nation. We appreciate you every single time. You make sure to smash that like button and the subscribe button so that you can get all this great Wolfpack content all the time, all right? Thank y'all so very much for coming out. Y'all make this show what it is. Peace and love, y'all. As always, go Pack.
Go Pack.